In this lesson, we will learn how to make facial expressions for characters with blend shapes. Blend shapes are used to morph a model into another form. We can use them to create facial expressions. That's what they're used for often. We could also use them to correct deformations. If we find that painting weights doesn't quite get us where we want, we could always create a blend shape that will fill in the area that's maybe collapsing in our deformations. So what we'll do is go ahead and use a blend shape to create a smile for our character, and then we'll learn how to tie its control into a custom channel so we can control that smile more conveniently. Let's go ahead and get to work. We'll make sure our mesh is selectable, and we'll go ahead and grab our character. From there, we're going to need to duplicate its mesh, and then we'll want to move it over, and that's going to act as our blend shape target. That's what will get applied back to the base mesh. So as we start to move our slider, Maya knows what the base mesh should do according to the target mesh's weight. Now, when we duplicate our character, let's go ahead and do that, Control D, you'll see that the channels are locked down. This is what happens when we skin our mesh. This is so that we don't run into double transformations. So what we'll do is go ahead and unlock our translate channels, because of course this duplicated mesh is not a part of the skin cluster at all. So it's a brand new mesh. Let's go ahead and highlight our translate channels, and we'll choose unlock. There we go. And now we can go ahead and move our mesh over. Very important, we do not want to freeze transforms on our target meshes, because that's going to cause our base mesh to slide to this zeroed out position. So we have to be very careful and make sure that we do not freeze transforms on our targets, but we can delete history. So if you need to clean up any history on this, you most certainly can. But if you need that history for your base mesh, if something on this mesh has to influence your base mesh in some way, if we need that history there, of course you don't want to delete it. Alright, so it'd be a good idea to go in and rename this mesh. Let's call it Imp Smile 01. Alright, so from here, we're ready to start sculpting our smile expression. So we can go to component mode. We'll go ahead and grab a few points. We could always work with soft select to get this done very quickly. You can enable this by going to, let's say, our move tool, just making sure it's turned on from here. It might be a good idea to turn it off temporarily just to go ahead and select the point we need. I might just grab one point on one side of the mouth and grab another point on the opposite side. And now we can turn on soft select. Feel free to adjust your radius to whatever you might need. We need to make sure that this looks like a convincing smile, so we need enough of this surface area to be pulled as we start to translate. So we'll go ahead and pull the mouth back a bit. We'll go ahead and pull it up. And now we can go ahead and grab our rotate tool. Just go ahead and rotate down. And instantly we have a really nice looking smile. Let's go ahead and press F8 to exit component mode. And there we have it. Alright, great. So at this point we're ready to go ahead and apply this as a blend shape. Let's go ahead and select our target mesh. We then would select the base mesh. And now we're ready to choose Create Deformers, Blend Shape. We'll go ahead and make sure our settings are reset. And what we'll do is create a name for our blend shape node. Otherwise, Maya is going to use a generic name, so we always want to stay organized. We can go ahead and abbreviate blend shape. We'll call it BSHP_imp01. Now, very important, if we were to go to our Advanced tab, this shows us the order that Maya is going to add the blend shape in. This order, we can see this from our channel box, and you can see that the skin cluster works because it's in the right order. The reason why our skin deforms is because of the order that we are currently using. Now when we go ahead and apply our blend shape, you'll notice that Maya is going to place this in this input list according to the order we specify here. I'm going to go ahead and use default. This is one of the original choices in Maya. way back when, and we're going to go ahead and learn how to manually change our input order. But when you're dealing with the skinned mesh, chances are you're going to want to leave this at front of chain, because it's going to make sure the blend shape is placed in the order it needs to be in for your deformations to work and for the blend shape to work on top of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose default, and we'll choose create. Alright, so take a look. When we grab our base mesh, you'll see that the blend shape has been added to our input list. When we go ahead and select it from here and grab the Imp Smile channel, we can go ahead and start to use that, and you'll see that we have a really cool looking smile. Alright, very nice. Now watch what happens if we were to go in, grab our control rig, and start to move any control. You'll see that it's not going to work, and that's simply because of the fact that the blend shape is not being evaluated in the right order. Alright, so let's go ahead and set the weight back to 0 on this. And let's say we go ahead and grab our input list to fix this. We can grab it from the status bar at the top. We can choose all inputs. Or another way is to go ahead and right click on the mesh, and we'll choose inputs, all inputs. Alright, so take a look at this list. It's read from bottom to top. So bottom being first, we can see we have our tweak node, and then we have the skin cluster, and then the blend shape node. Now, the reason why this is not working is because Maya is first looking at the skin cluster, and then the blend shape is kind of blocking the skin cluster. So we need to go ahead and rearrange things so that Maya is going to look at the blend shape and then the skin cluster on top of that. So here's what we need to do. We'll go ahead and middle mouse button drag our blend shape node between the tweak node and skin cluster. So Maya is going to read the tweak node, then it's going to read the blend shape node, and then the skin cluster. Now watch this. When we go ahead and close this out and we go ahead and set our Imp Smile back to 1, let's go ahead and do that. By the way, you might notice that the order doesn't look like it updated, but it actually has. If you were to go ahead and reselect your mesh, you'll see that we can now see our new ordering. We'll go ahead and set our Imp Smile back to 1. Alright, and take a look. We now have our smile shape, and when we go ahead and start to move our rig, you can see that it's going to deform just fine. Alright, very cool. So that's a look at how we can go ahead and work with our blend shapes. So this is just a really basic example of how this can be used for facial expressions. Now, so we start to work with the blend shape, you'll notice that we have a little bit of influence in areas that we don't want. If this ever happens, I'll go ahead and show you how to remove influence. So if we're just working with a facial expression, we could always go to Edit, Deformers, and we'll go ahead and choose Paint Blend Shape Weights tool. So it's just like our Paint Weight tool, but now we can go ahead and paint to a blend shape target. So here is Imp Smile. What we can do is go ahead and make sure that, let's say, our value here is set to 0, so we'll go ahead and take away weight, and we'll have our operation set to replace, just like our Paint Weight tool. So now, if we were to go ahead and hold down the B key and drag with our left mouse button, take a look, we can start to remove weight and remove any influence in areas that we don't want influence to be. Alright, so we'll just go ahead and go through and start to remove some weight here, just painting that away. And the great thing is that it's on a per target basis, so as we create more targets, we can customize how much influence each target should have. So I'll just go through and start to remove some weight here. Alright, I'll go ahead and paint away influence underneath the hand. We'll basically stop around the neck. So we might want to decrease our brush size. I'll just hold down the B key and start dragging over to our left. I'll start to get rid of some more influence. Alright, fantastic. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at what happens with our blend shape. I'll just go ahead and get rid of a little bit more influence around the neck, so we're just left with some influence around the base. That looks good. So watch this. When we go back to our blend shape and we start to use our channel, you'll see that no longer do we see influence on the arms. So that's a very helpful feature. The ability that Maya allows us to go ahead and remove or add influence is very helpful. Okay, great. Well, now that we have control over this blend shape, what we'll do is stop the lesson here, and in the next lesson we'll create a channel that we can use to access this blend shape weight much faster.